Afternoon, folks. Let's see if anybody's going to chime in and say something now. Uh, Hopefully, I've got the audio working a little bit better today. Come on, somebody say something. I'm by myself today, so you're stuck with me for however long I feel like talking. Let's see. Come on. Well, it says I'm live. Looks like three people. Anyway, uh, and things are getting rather interesting. One of the things that I noted was that it is almost impossible to find anything to ship to folks. The places that I normally would ship from, like Old Man Schute's store down in Marshall, Texas, call down there to talk to them, and they are sold out and have been sold out for over a week. And strangely enough, it appears that their product was sold out. Literally everything they had online and in their catalog was gone. And Ian's checked in. Glad to see you, Ian. Uh, hey, Cedar. At least a couple of people made it. The other fun part is the other places that I checked, because I'm not going to go to California for Christmas with the kids because of COVID idiocy. Uh, they're all sold out. Hey, Sarah. Uh, Strangely, they've been sold out for weeks too. And even the old Vermont store sold out, which is really interesting because they're one of the largest and oldest catalog shippers in the United States. So it's going to default down to whatever the kids can get. And since Ian's here, I'll start off. He posted a comment about tamales out the back of a pickup truck or out of the trunk of a car. And that kind of lit up a comment chain for a while. But that's kind of a Texas tradition that's apparently now expanded all over the country, at least as far as Washington State, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, drug deal tamales is right. Hey, Bob, you made it. Uh, and they're jokingly called drug deal tamales because the health department's nowhere to be found. And this is a little old abuela or her husband in a corner parking lot somewhere that is selling tamales out of a pickup truck or the back of a car out of a cooler. So you make the deal, you get this package wrapped in aluminum foil, and it's warm. And then you run home and hopefully make them home before you eat all of them. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And it reminded me back in the day, um, my uncle used to get them out of the oil field out in East Texas. And what he would do was go find the oldest Hispanic working on a rig, talk to him off to the side, and then the next day go back out to the rig, and he'd come back to my aunt's house with this wrapped up package, usually about that big, had about a dozen tamales in it. My family goes back a little further than that, back to the 1920s, because growing up in Louisiana, there's a town down there called Zwolle, and they have been making tamales down there for over 100 years. It's a mixture of Spanish and Indian families that settled there. And my daddy was in the oil field business back in the 1920s. And there was a little field that came in just south of Mansfield, Louisiana. So daddy would go up there to work on the oil field. And on the way home, he would stop in Zwolle and pick up tamales and take them home. No, good luck with that, Cedar. I don't know where you can find them in Ohio, but I've been eating tamales since I was a little bitty kid. And the funny part was, many years ago, I was in South Carolina, tried a Mexican restaurant in South Carolina, which violated my rule. Normally, I don't eat Mexican east of the Mississippi River. And noticed they had spicy or mild tamales listed on the menu. So I ask them for spicy. Meal comes out. I take a bite of it. And I went with, that tastes familiar. So I asked for the manager. The manager came over and said, "Sir, is there anything wrong?" I said, "Did you get these tamales from Zwolle, Louisiana?" He looked at me with a stunned expression and goes, "How the hell did you know that?" I said, "Well, I grew up eating these things." Sarah, you really need to get back to Texas and get a tamale out of the back of a car or back of a pickup. The tamales that we get our hands on, they're full. I mean, literally tamales that are 3 inches across and an inch, inch and a half deep. They're full of stuff. The but it was really funny. And he ended up comping me the meal, which was even more funny. But tamales are good. You get chicken, you get beef. They actually make dessert tamales that have peach pie, apple filling, um, various things. No, it's not heresy, Ian. You just you have not seen the right part of the country to get one of those. But they'll take and put like a almost like a syrup over them, and oh, they are good. Oh, and you can freeze tamales, contrary to popular opinion. The way you cook them, if you freeze them, is you take them out and you don't unwrap them. You leave them in the corn husk, microwave them for about 2 minutes, take them out of the husk, lay them out on a plate, cover them with a paper towel, heat them for another 2 minutes, and they're fresh. But the other thing that's coming up is, of course, Christmas. So that brings to mind all the. Yeah, Ian, I might agree if it was coconut. That ain't right. Peaches, apples, pumpkin. I've actually had a pumpkin dessert tamale that was really good. Hey, Jonna. So there are any number of ways that you can do it. If you get some of the tamales down here, I'll guarantee you there'll be leftovers if you get a couple of dozen, because you cannot eat that many. What we do usually do is get a mixture of chicken and pork. And matter of fact, we're doing that for Christmas. We're going to do a Texas Christmas, so it's going to be brisket, tamales, and ham. No turkey, because we're all turkeyed out. I said that, didn't I? Never mind. Just ignore that comment. Uh, since Jonna checked in, I've got to credit Jonna with something. She posted a link on Facebook this morning to a forensic computer study of Antrim County's voting on Dominion systems up in Michigan, and it's rather telling. Uh, you need to go get that link and look at it, because it's definitely interesting. And you can also find it. I put a link on MeWe. I think Jonna did too. The other thing I found interesting is that apparently my Facebook posts are now being throttled for 96 hours because stuff that I posted on the 10th just started showing up and I started getting responses on it today. I was watching it the last 3 days and it had been seen by 6 people. Today, it finally showed up. And in talking to some other people about my links to these little live streams, they're not showing up until a day or two later. I'm being throttled, Jesse. That's the only thing I can think of. When they took our our live stream down completely once, a couple of times we had problems getting up, and then last Thursday we couldn't see any comments at all, so we didn't know if we were live or not. That's why I moved over to YouTube. Yeah, I'm probably on. It's Sarah. I'm on a lot of list. It's just one more to add to the collection. Yeah, Cedar. We're all on a list, and apparently the left has decided that we shall be unpeopled or unpersoned, whatever you want to call it. There were more calls last couple of days for us to be taken down, our kind to be taken down. And I don't know how many of you looked at or saw anything on the rioting in DC between the Trump supporters and Antifa. But I was checking the media feeds on that. It was really interesting because what they did was that they said the Trump supporters were all identified as Proud Boys. The number of people out there was no way that was all Proud Boys. There might have been a small group of Proud Boys. But the Antifa were never identified as Antifa. They were always identified as counter protesters. And more interestingly, I saw one comment online that said the counter protesters blacked up. And a minute later, I went back to screen cap that, and it was gone. Now, the warning showed up yesterday. That's interesting, Ian. Yeah. Bob, they're going to take a crack at us. But I don't think they understand what the response is going to be. I don't think they understand at all. Today in the House, apparently they're making the decisions for the Electoral College. And, the race is over. The question now is how many executive actions are going to come out starting January the 20th that are going to be against us. Scott, I'm hearing that. I have not been watching it that closely, to be honest. But I think the deal's done. It's over now. So what we've got to do is dig in and do what we can. Georgia is going to be interesting. Abrams has claimed that she has gotten, 1 million votes, 1 million mail-in ballots herself or her organization. If I was Georgia, I would be setting all those so-called million mail-in ballots to the side and looking at them real close, because that just stinks. They're going to start, or apparently have started voting today. I'm not sure. I think it was today. It was the start of early voting down there. The other thing that's going to be interesting is the gun shows next month, because I was looking around. There are a number of gun shows that are going to be prior to January the 20th. And I wonder how much of those gun shows, or how many of those, people are going to be wondering if this is the last gun show they're going to see. And I wonder what the prices are going to be. Sarah, people are bringing things out of the woodwork to sell, ammunition especially. I'm hearing rumors that some ammo, especially the ammo that people are hunting the most, the 5.56, 223, that's going as high as $1 a round. Some of the pistol ammo, 9mm, practically unfindable. 45 the same way. 380, surprisingly enough, the same way. So if you've got a bunch of it, you can make a lot of money. And AR platforms. I did not go to the gun show this past weekend, but some people that were there were saying it was not unusual to see $1,500 to $2,000 for a plain Jane AR, and a cobbled together homemade one was getting $900 to $1,000. $30 for a box of 20 match grade 223 today. Damn. I might have to break into my stocks. Because I got some of that stuff. Yeah, 380 went fast, Jesse. Our local gun store owner here in town was talking to him. He said, I can't buy 9 for love nor money. He said 380 doesn't exist. The number of people that converted over in the last 2 years to 380, especially for ladies carry, just, it went out the window. And I know when I bought that little 380 for training purposes, I was able to get 2 boxes of 380 ammo. And when I changed the sights out, I found 5 rounds. And that's what I used to check the sights. So I have enough for carry ammo for it, and that's it. $150 rounds for $75 of 193 ball. That's 50 cents a round. Boy. Now, Cedar, it's not that it's not being made. It's just you can't get it. The lead time on ammunition is a year or longer. So what happens is the U.S. produces somewhere in excess of 500 million rounds a year of ammunition. The military buys most of that. This is the same thing we saw in 2008. I can remember at the gun show in Tulsa, Wanamaker, watching a guy with Oklahoma Police Supply had 2 53-foot tractor trailers sitting in the parking lot full of ammo. Friday night, he was bringing in ammo by the hand truckload, and people were buying the entire hand truckload of ammo for whatever he wanted for it, and going right back out the door for it with it. By Saturday afternoon, he was pulling pallets of ammo off the truck in the parking lot and was being offered $15,000 per pallet of ammo. By 6 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, he had sold 2 53-foot long tractor trailers full of ammunition. Gone. And it's going to be that bad or worse next month. Jesse's right. The demand is outstripping supply. That just by a factor of probably 10 or 15. Raw material costs are up. And as Bob says, people are afraid to go shooting for fear they can't replace what they have. 12 gauge, yeah, 12 gauge is getting hard to find. This is where a 22 comes in handy because a 22 you can at least maintain proficiency with, but 22 is getting expensive. A brick of 22 that 6 months ago was 15, 20, maybe $30 is $50 to $60 now if you can find it, and that's the cheap 22. The good 22, I saw one the other day. I was looking for Ely match. Was $210 for a brick of Ely match. That's 22 ammunition. They wanted $210 for 500 rounds. That is just freaking amazing. Yeah, Scott, if you're finding it for 21 cents a round, you're doing pretty good. Yeah, I remember paying a dime, or maybe it was 15 cents for a 50 round box of the old Remington 22 ammo when I was a kid. Not doing that today, not by any means. And Scott, I will actually tell you, I bought in 2008 when the ammo was short. I actually bought for some 22 out of a jewelry store down in your neck of the woods. I'm not going to tell you which jewelry store because I may have to go back there. But he had a little gun room in the back of the jewelry store, and I bought 2 bricks of 22 out of there. Yeah, Sarah, if we had a time machine. Oh, if we had a time machine. But we'd screw it up somewhere or the other. Oh, so getting back to Christmas food. Now is when everybody is wondering what that particular aunt or uncle is going to bring for their dinner. Uh, Scott, if everybody knows that store, then things have really gotten bad down there. And no, not the fruitcake. Fruitcakes, yeah, they're a separate classification. But there was always that one aunt in our family that would bring the Jello surprise. And damn, Scott, times have changed down there. This Jello surprise was literally a surprise every year. And little nibbles of it would be gone before the day was over. But by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it would disappear mysteriously. And another aunt would come back in, dusting her hands, going, "Fix that problem." Fruitcakes. We'll get into that category. Fruitcakes are a special category. The worst fruitcake known to man is Claxton fruitcake out of Claxton, Georgia. That thing is a doorstop before it's shipped. I know a pair of brothers that have been shipping the same Claxton fruitcake back and forth for at least 15 years now. And the deal is that they have to send a video back with one of them cutting a slice of it and actually eating it. And in 15 years, they've made it about halfway through the fruitcake. And he figures they'll both be dead before they ever finish that fruitcake, or dead because of the fruitcake. Carrot, raisin, orange Jello surprise. Yeah. Yep. That would fit in that category, John. I think the strangest one I ever saw, though, was we used to do Orphans Thanksgiving, Orphans Christmas in the military. And we've kind of continued that since I got out. But we had now, Jesse, it's apparently the taste has not changed in 15 years. But we had a guy from Jamaica that was going to come and ask what he could bring. So we told him to bring a green bean casserole. Being from Jamaica, he knew peas. He didn't know green beans. So he brought a green pea casserole. That was interesting. And we didn't eat it. But he made some jerk chicken that was, oh, that was good stuff. But yeah, those would get interesting. We had a Canadian exchange pilot come to one of them, and he brought smoked cod. We had a Dutch exchange pilot that brought some Dutch treats, and I'm not sure what was in them, but they were interesting. It was a toss up as to whether they were a vegetable, a fruit, a dessert, or what. But they all disappeared. I know they had a lot of cinnamon in them, so they got eaten. But you know, just some of the things that people will show up with are just amazing. And the problem is they do it year after year after year. The Vienna sausages I could do, Jonna. The pimento cheese, yeah. The peas and pectin, oh hell no. Mayo in the center. Yeah, file that one in no. In the no category. I don't even like the pimento cheese at the Masters, and that's supposedly some of the best pimento cheese in Georgia or around, period. And those are cheap sandwiches. I like their barbecue sandwiches, which is a bunch of old church ladies, and they do them every year. Yeah, it's kind of Masters is kind of interesting in a lot of ways for the food and the other things. Nothing is on a long-term contract there in Augusta. Nothing. Everything is year to year. And a couple of years ago, they did not have pimento cheese sandwiches because the people thought they could jack the price up and get more money out of the Masters. And the Masters said, yeah, see you. Bye. Next year, they came back at their regular price. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, John, I could do without it. But the barbecue is made by a bunch of little old church ladies, and apparently they start planning that about 6 months ahead, as soon as they get the approval. And everything there is reasonably priced. Yeah, Scott, they probably, I would say at a guess, lost between 15 and $20 million, because I know a number of years ago, just out of the pro shop during the week of the Masters, they sold $10 million in product, and that's not counting the food stuff. The the other thing is pies and cakes. I'll be the first to admit I can't bake worth a damn. I can make a decent pie. That's about it. But I can't bake a cake. I admire people that can. They much more patience than I have. But I can make a decent pecan pie. And yes, it's pecan, not pecan. Uh, I remember many years ago, I asked my mother, first time I heard somebody say pecan, and I was maybe 10, 11, 12 years old. Mama, what's a pecan? She kind of looked at me funny. Now, well, I call them pecans. She said, Well, a pecan is a food. A pecan is something you keep under the bed in the winter when you don't want to go out to the outhouse. Enough said. But a good Cairo syrup pecan pie is done right, and I can do them pretty good. They are really good. So, what do y'all want to talk about? Because I'm here by myself, so any input will be appreciated. Yeah, there are good places to eat around Augusta. I've eaten at a few of them, and yeah, Scott, people rent their houses for large amounts of money. Oh yeah, Sarah, Google outage today. That's right. Google went down apparently worldwide about 7 o'clock this morning, and didn't get back up till sometime around 8 o'clock. Uh, well, Ian's out. He's got a medical issue he's dealing with, and John is somewhere lost in space around Altus, Oklahoma, uh, out doing his driving car job. Ian's got pink eye. That's what it was. So rather than him infecting me, he decided to stay away today. Yeah, hate it. Hate it for y'all having to put up with just me, but we deal with it and go on. Uh, but the thing is, the first vaccines came out today too, and it was interesting. The first vaccination in the United States apparently was a black female nurse up in New York City, and they had a black doctor on there who was explaining the procedures and everything else. And I looked at it and I went, okay, that's staged for obvious political reasons, except that the person giving the shot was a white nurse. And I couldn't help but think that was a swing and a miss, because trying to make the policy statement they did and using a white nurse to give a black person a shot basically killed their entire storyline. Just, the left does not understand us. They do not understand conservatives. And yeah, Cuomo is behaving badly, to put it mildly. And the whole COVID thing is becoming more and more interesting. Apparently, Cuomo is also being now charged with oh, sexual harassment in office, apparently from more than one person. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But nobody is talking about what Trump did to get the vaccine available. Nothing about how he honchoed, set up, made work Operation Warp Speed with Vice President Pence. Nothing about how the cooperation from all of the players to make it happen. And now you're hearing the COVID Karens coming out and saying, well, I'm not going to take it because Trump had this done. Yeah, he had it done. Yeah, he and the team performed a miracle. When you think about it, or if you bothered to do the research, the average time it takes to get a vaccine into place is 4 years. They did it in 6 months. Yeah, good point, Jesse. Peace in the Middle East is bad now. But 4 months. They took a fairly new technology with the RNA. They got the trials done, they made it work, and it's out there. It's out today. Not as many as they wanted because the companies simply cannot get the supplies. But there's nothing you can do with that because the the sheath they are that the vaccine requires just cannot be manufactured that fast. And yes, Cedar, the usual anti-vax insanity is ramping up. So what happens when Biden mandates that everybody will take it? How's that going to go over? Anybody? Nobody knows because nobody knows what Biden's plan is. Has anybody seen in writing any of Biden's plans? Yeah, an ad from Bob, that's just bad. An ad from Motic and Associates in 2031. If you took COVID-19 vaccine in 2020, you may be eligible for compensation. Yeah, Jesse, it's been really insane. And the caste system, I think it's going to go two ways. I think Ian's right. It's going to be a caste system. And I've also heard that that's going to be the travel restriction. If you want to fly, show me your card. Show me you got vaccinated. We know that the first, and for good reason, the first doses are going to the healthcare professionals. The caste system is basically if you're on our side, you get the vaccine immediately. If you're on the other side, well, we'll get to you when we get to you. The issue is going to be that's how they're going to maintain control. One of the means of maintaining control. You'll have to wear some kind of, patch or something to let people know you've been vaccinated. Is that coming? I don't know. Maybe. Forced vaccinations, I think, are going to come. I think it's a matter of time. I don't think they should be forced, but I think they will be. Yeah, Ian's right. Caste systems, anyone with a vaccine has full rights. Anyone who doesn't take it doesn't get all their rights. Yellow Star, yeah. Yeah, you want to do anything that mixes in the public, you have to show proof. And I don't think they're going to do away with a mask mandate. I think the mask mandate is here to stay. The sad part is, and you see very few reports on this, is what they call mask mouth. Is people that have to wear a mask all the time are having dental problems, they're having throat problems because they're breathing out and then back in the same crap they just breathed out. So the infections of the mouth and the teeth are going sky high. Severe halitosis is one of the issues. If you want to travel, I think you're going to have to show a card that show you had the vaccine. And I'm betting that's going to happen for international travel, especially. Could it go to the point that they have the checks, the checklist, the check stands at the Colorado line? It could be. A friend of mine sent me an email the other day. He said, I didn't realize CalExit was becoming real, but it is. And it's going to get worse. Hewlett Packard's leaving. Musk is leaving. They've announced Oracle is leaving. They're all coming to California. From California to Texas. What I'm hoping and praying is they don't bring the damn California attitudes with them down here. We got enough of that crap already. Yeah, if they put the check stations at the state lines, what is that going to do to the trucking industry? How long can they sit in line at a, check station? Hey, watch it, Jesse. Just because you're north of us, you got your own problems. Papers, please. Yep. Poppy ain't bit. It's going to be worse than what the EU is now. Can we get through it? Yeah. We made it through 8 years of Obama. We'd make it through 4 years or 4 months, depending of Biden and the leftover of Harris. But the other question is, who's going to be lined up behind Harris? Yeah, Jesse, if you're talking about the 1930s, you're probably right. Bob, I don't know. My crystal ball's an 8 ball I flip over and see what the answer is. I really don't know. And I think anybody that says they do are lying. Hell, I don't think Trump knows what he's going to do in a year or 4 years. We just got to get through it, folks. We've made it this far. We'll make it. It's just a question of, do we do it easy or do we do it hard? And a lot of that's going to depend on what the other side does. And, I think a lot of that is going to depend on what happens with the media. Now that they no longer have Trump to beat on, I don't want to open that fourth box either. I would rather see, the Democrats melt down internally, which they're already starting to do just over the cabinet positions that have not yet even been identified or formally approved. Because you've got the progressives that are going, we got you there. You got to support us. You got to give us. And you got the old line Democrats going, yeah, you progressives, shut up, stay in your corner, because we set this up and we made it work. And then you got BLM going, hey, wait a minute, we got you there. And you got Antifa, we got you there. And they're all starting to butt heads. Because everybody wants a cabinet position. There was one report, I forget which magazine it was, it said there were over 400 progressives identified for cabinet positions, and that list was sent to the transition team. What I wonder is whether the list of that communist Chinese spies was sent to the transition team, and how many of them are going to be on the selection list. And it makes you wonder what the Dems are thinking when they let Swalwell stay on the Intelligence Committee for 4 years. And they let Pelosi keep him there. He had ties. He says, quote, quote, that he dumped Fang Fang or whatever her name, Christine Fang, whatever you want to call her, back years ago. But nobody's seen any proof of that. Yeah, nobody's seen whether or not she actually disappeared off the scene. You can't find that in media coverage anywhere because nobody's looking. Nobody, and if they know, they're not talking. I'm wondering if Biden's first act, Bob, what you were talking about earlier, I wonder if Biden's first act is going to be pardoning Hunter. It may have to be. I'm not sure what else he can do. Chinese version of Sparrow School. Yes, that's exactly what it is, Bob. For those of you that have never heard that term, it's the way the Chinese spy programs are set up as sparrows. You go look it up. It's some interesting reading. There are there's different versions of those people. Actually, Ian, it works pretty damn well. I mean, you look at how many Feinstein's driver for 20 years was out of the Sparrow School. Fang Fang, what, 10, 12 years working with Swalwell. That's a good point, Jesse. The faster they make fools of themselves, the faster the folks go walkabout. That time is going to suck. Yes, no question. Yep, Ian. That's, sparrows go back to day 2 of existence. Every country has used that. Mata Hari being probably the most successful, or at least the most well known. The red-headed Russian a couple of years ago, can't remember her name. She worked pretty well out of D.C. and was trying to get to the NRA. They're all over the place. Chinese actors come in many shapes, forms, and fashions. Bob, you say it was originally from KGB, but it actually goes back a lot further than that. And it goes back many, many, many years, probably hundreds of years, if not thousands, depending. The other thing that's interesting, apparently Nevada state electors flipped to Trump. That's interesting. Yeah, they did make it famous, Bob. You're right about that. But the other thing you've got to think about is for everyone that's caught, how many are not caught? One of the organizations I worked at, we had a honey trap sitting out there for hackers. And we were able to track down a particular school in Wuhan province in China, the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade classes, because they would hack the honeypot like clockwork. They were actually training by hacking a U.S. government system. It's state school number 4. But they were actually training by hacking a U.S. government system. It's pretty well known that the Chinese, the Soviets, and who knows who else, probably the Iranians, hacked the unclassified government system. They may have hacked other systems that were more highly classified, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm trying to remember, Ian. Wasn't Tartarstan number 4 where they had the fully made up American village, American town, down to the furniture, the newspapers, and everything else? Or am I thinking about a different one up in Leningrad? Anyway, um, okay. Yeah, I thought that's which one it was. Yeah, they would go to rather interesting extremes to Lumumba. Okay. Yeah, I know there was one up in Leningrad because we talked to some people that had seen that one. Yeah, which does bring up a funny story. A number of years ago, my one of my former admirals was a EA, executive assistant to the chief of naval operations, and this was when Admiral Crow was the chairman of Joint Chiefs, and they got a tour over in Russia. And one of the things that they were shown during the tour was a Typhoon submarine. Uh, and it was really interesting because the admiral, as a captain, was one of the ones accompanying Admiral Crow. And he was asked by a Russian as they boarded the Typhoon submarine, "Oh, what kind of fighters do you fly?" And he said, "Oh, I don't fly fighters, I fly P-3s." He was immediately surrounded by 4 of the biggest Russians he'd ever seen. And he was escorted the entire tour, and they made sure they blocked his view of anything important so that he could not see major components of the submarine, while Admiral Crow was shown the rest of the boat. And he told that story very laughingly. And he said, "Yeah, that was an interesting tour of 4 big guys." And he said every one of them towered over him by at least 6 to 8 inches. Admiral Crow had his ways of doing things. Um, Another friend of mine was also an EA to Crow, and he had a red phone in his apartment, and he lived literally 10-minute walk from the Pentagon when he was an EA. And Admiral Crow was known to occasionally call him up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "I need such and such by 8 o'clock in the morning." Be at a point paper, and Admiral Crow was one of those individuals that did not like in-depth briefings for an initial look. He wanted a PowerPoint. He did not want PowerPoint. Excuse me. He wanted a half-page or less point paper, bullet points. Then, if it went further in depth, then he got the more in-depth briefings. And Crash said that one of the things that always twisted his tail was that the Air Force is professional briefers. The Air Force has a squadron of people in Washington, D.C. that do nothing but prepare briefs and give them at the 3 and 4 star levels. The Navy can't afford to do that. So, having had friends that worked in the 5-sided puzzle palace, some of them were program managers, what we call PMs or APMs, assistant program managers. And usually in a very small office with maybe 5, 6 people total. So they would get told to put a brief together. So they would scramble around and put a brief together, and it looked nowhere near as professional as the Air Force. And whoever the guy in charge was, regardless of how good he looked or how bad he looked, was the one that got up and gave the brief. And that also was irrespective of how well he spoke in public, which sometimes was rather interesting. So Admiral Crowell would apparently never shut those people down. But if he asked a question of an Air Force briefer and the Air Force briefer did not have the immediate answer, he got thrown out of the room. Anyway, just one of those odd little Pentagon governmental asides of how well or less than well the various services play together. Yeah. Yeah, the other side of the coin, Bob, was Schwarzkopf. Yeah, he was not well liked by the Navy, the Marine Corps, or anybody else. Matter of fact, was not well liked by a lot of the special operators in the Army because of his attitude toward people. Well, we've kind of run far afield today. Yeah, down in, sit, stay. Apparently, the woman in California who had the restaurant that got shut down, and then they put the movie feeding outdoor restaurant next door to hers. Well, I saw her on one of the clips this morning. Apparently, that whole movie thing was taken down and disappeared the next day. And apparently, somebody started a GoFundMe for this lady in her restaurant. And she's got enough money from all over the world that she is going to manage to remain open. They will be doing takeout. And she said that she would be decorating the patio as a thank you to the community. Yeah, Jesse, they set it back up somewhere without cameras and somewhere behind fencing where nobody could get to it. But anyway, apparently there were some people that reached out and did a really nice thing for them. The only problem is that's one out of between 160 and 200,000 small businesses that are going to go under this year. The only ones that are making out are the big hitters. Amazon, Google, Walmart, the big chains, they're making billions of dollars off COVID because they have the capability to ship and they have the capability to deliver product. They're the ones that are making out. The mom and pops, they're getting killed. You know, I saw one financial report. They said that at least 200,000 small businesses, not just not just restaurants, but businesses, have gone under this year. They'll never be back. So if you figure, let's say a minimum of 10 people per business, that's 2 million people that are out of a job. That's 200,000 people that have probably lost their life savings. They've lost everything they've built over their entire lifetime. You know, what do? How many of those people are going to end up committing suicide? You know, how many suicides do we already have that aren't being reported? Are they being counted as COVID-19 deaths? I don't know. I don't know. But that's what's going on. You know, and you know, it's not fair. I know that's a hell of a word to say, but it's not fair. The whole COVID-19 thing has been mismanaged since day one, my opinion. Because what they should have done was to actually quarantine as per the definition of a quarantine, which is that you quarantine those that have the most problems and everybody else goes about their normal business. Yeah, they pretty much broken the middle class, Bob. The question is, what's left of the middle class? Is the middle class a check and balance anymore? Or is it going to be the rich and the poor? And there's, you know, and we're going to be on the poor side. I know my Social Security is going up a whole $21 next year per month. Woohoo! Yeah, Jesse, data. Figures lie and liars figure, and it got broke off in our ass this year. Well, folks, I've wasted an hour of your time. I thank the 8 of you that managed to join in. You know, I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can until I get booted off of this platform too into somewhere else. Oh, that does remind me of one thing. The media is now considering podcasts and live streams as subversive. Kind of funny that podcasts and live streams are now subversive because, and you know, although they didn't say it, blogs, because the mainstream media can't control that. They don't have a way to control us other than shut us off. And if they shut us off, yeah, then we'll see what happens. But I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And one of the ones they pointed out was Joe Rogan, and said he put out disinformation, and you know, a lot of his stuff was very, you know, was counterproductive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, First Amendment, folks. Anyway, it's an hour and 2 minutes. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Yes, we're subversives, Ian. It's hard to talk this long. Anyway, I appreciate all the comments. And I do appreciate your watching and listening. And just remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't pet the sweaty stuff. And we'll see you on Thursday. Also, you know, I would appreciate feedback if you want me to continue doing this on YouTube. I think it's a little cleaner, but I'll leave it up to y'all. Thank you very much. Bye.